So let's do this. First, I'll say who I am, and then I'll explain what this video is going to be about. So I am a person of African descent. I live here in Europe. This is the first video I've ever made, ever. That's because I'm quite reluctant making such public videos. But during this time period, with all the news that we're seeing online, it's hard for me to be quiet, especially if I see that some points are not being addressed as they ought to be. So this video is going to be about, yes, racism. It's going to be in relation to the Black Lives Matter movement. And I want to raise two video reports, or just reports, that Euronews shared recently in relation to the Black Lives Matter movement. I want to highlight some key points about racism for a specific group of people. The people I have in mind here are not the people who are already on the streets marching for the cause of Black Lives Matters, for Black Lives Matter. It's more for the people who are on the fence. It's for the people who are not Black and unsure about how to engage with this movement. It's for even Black people who are as well unsure about how to engage with it. They're not necessarily racist, and they're not passive. They're not bad people. They just don't know what to do. I want to use this opportunity to try to explain or break down what Black Lives Matter movement is calling for you to do or change. I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to do a kind of an exercise. I would like to present these two news reports for you, and I want you to try to see what you see and observe what you observe. You might not see anything, or you might. The point I'm trying to raise is that racism is so complicated. It's so difficult to understand how it works its way into everybody's life. I want to try to show with these reports how evident it is and what you can do to stop it or join the movement in as comfortable a way as possible that suits you. So on the outset, I want to say this is going to be a lengthy video. I would have liked to make it shorter, but unfortunately, as mentioned, racism is complicated, and as with all things complicated, you need to take time to break it down and try to understand it. So here goes. This is the first video. Okay, so let's start the exercise. I'm going to share the first report. It's a comment shared by a doctor in America. She addresses the well-being of people who are watching all the videos that are now online, police brutality and those marching. And she shares these comments with the interviewer at Euronews. Just take a look. See if you spot anything that's a bit off. Afterwards, I'll share my thoughts. Here it goes.
Brutality, especially amongst the Black community, has been an issue for decades. And I think now, because we carry little computers with us, our mobile phones, we are seeing more and more video, and we are having video in real time. And we do have the social media component where video is being carried out throughout the world in a matter of seconds. That is a positive in that we are staying more aware of what's going on in the world, but at the same time, if we watch it repetitively, we aren't really benefiting ourselves. We're just causing more suffering to ourselves. So one of the ways to combat that is to actually take action. And that's been found in several studies, that when we take action about something, we tend to feel less helplessness when we've been watching it over and over on TV.
Okay, so you mentioned they're taking action, but how exactly can people do that or express their support without sort of experiencing the second-hand horror, as it were?
Protests have been helpful for people. Also, making sure that people reach out to others and talk about the issues. Also, if someone cannot leave their home because they're at high risk for COVID-19, donating, also having virtual support networks can be helpful.
But, the video of George Floyd's killing has stirred so much revolt and anger and sadness among many Black people I know, myself included. What advice would you give people like me?
I'd say first that I would speak to the fact that it's it's very difficult for me as someone that identifies as white to speak to the Black experience. So I think that's important to note. I think also being active, making sure that people are connecting with others, people are making sure that they're getting mental health services if possible. I think those are some of the most important things we can do.
Okay. Dr. Stephanie Moulton-Sarkis, thank you for joining us from Tampa, Florida. Now, while Europe seems...
Okay, that was the first news item. I'm going to try to explain my views without getting too worked up. So I have made notes and I'll just take a look at them as I explain it. Now, at the outset, it doesn't look like anything is going on. Here's a doctor, therapist, a psychologist, what have you, just talking about the well-being of people who are following the news these days. And she's basically sharing tips of how to protect themselves or their mental health, so to speak. The first point she makes is, and I would like to quote it, she says, watching this news repetitively, all the police brutality, etc., causes a distress. It doesn't benefit, quote unquote, again, ourselves, and it causes us to suffer. And the way to combat it is to take action, because by doing so, it makes somebody feel less helpless. Now, that's a funny comment, to be honest, because if people do protest, they don't go because they're trying to make themselves feel better. They go because they believe in the cause. The next thing that happens is that the interviewer tries to get her to really address this kind of separation that she's making by asking her, how can you take action without experiencing the secondhand horror? And then she goes on to make a list. She says, protests are helpful. She then says, reaching out to talk about the issues is good. You can't, and the people who aren't able to leave home, she does mention COVID-19, like a side point. It's a nice opportunity, almost like they can go out because they were held back. Donating makes them feel good, and getting the virtual network support is also making them feel good. Again, separating the whole point of going in a protest. The blow happens right at the end when the interviewer asks her, okay, I've seen the killing of George Floyd, and as a Black person, it has impacted me in a bad way. It's stirred up feelings of revolt and anger. How would you advise somebody like me to not experience those things when I'm seeing the death of a man? To this question, she directly responds that it's difficult for her to relate to a Black experience, given that she's white. Think about that response, because it hit me hard. If this white woman looks at a Black man being killed by the police, and the first response that comes to her is that she can't relate to the Black experience because she's white, she can't find sympathy or empathy or even a sense of injustice when she sees a Black man being killed because she's white, what does that mean? So there are two things here that I see. One, a complete detachment from what's going on in America, an unwillingness to actually engage. She cushions herself with her tips of how to not be so impacted with the situation. She gives tips on how people should just try to find some kind of a care facility so they're not too engaged or too bothered by the situation, when the Black Lives Matter movement is to make people bothered enough to do something about it. She goes on to say, what does she say? She says, being active is good, connecting with others is good, getting mental health service is good. That's how she concludes her response to George Floyd's killing. What I want to raise here is that I'm not implying that she's racist, but I am implying that there is a deep-seated detachment and disconnect from the realities of Black lives at the moment. This detachment is what's keeping racism alive. Okay, let me make something clear here. I'm not implying that this doctor is a racist, not at all. But what I am implying, or what I'm trying to show, is that this doctor's complete detachment from what's going on in America regarding Black lives leads her to reduce the efforts of protests to a feel-good factor, with the tips she offers people who are watching it and who don't want to feel too distressed, that they should just join, and that they should just get in touch with a mental health service if they are feeling too bothered. Her detachment from Black Lives Matter and her detachment from being human leads her to contribute by default, and in a long-winded way, the continuation of racism. It's complicated to spot this. Black Lives Matter is asking for people to be more humane, to care a little bit more above and beyond themselves, and their cushioned existence. This is what it's calling for. Okay, let's move to the next report. This event covers something that's taken place in Bordeaux. Again, let's take a look at it like an exercise. Just watch the video, the report, and take a look if you can see something that's a bit off. Afterwards, I'll share my thoughts with you, and I'll see if you spotted what I spotted. Let's take a look.
Bordeaux wants to inform the public and is taking a different approach. Bordeaux was France's second largest slave port and prospered during the 17th century. It's now installing plaques to help explain its history. Aurélie Matisse is the project manager at Mission Equality, an initiative being promoted by Bordeaux City Hall. We can find out more now. Thank you very much for your time. Can you just explain to us in a little bit more detail what it is that Bordeaux is doing to acknowledge the colonial past of the city?
Well, this started a few years ago, but this specific plan of action started 2 years ago and is now coming to an end. The idea was to acknowledge the city's past and to recognize in fairness what happened. Bordeaux has been a city who made a lot of money on slave trade, and the idea was to recognize both the good and the bad of those people that were recognized by street sign. There were streets named after them. Some of them were prominent citizens of the city. Was one of them even a mayor, and if they were recognized at their time, it's because they have done something good for the city, but they also, for some of them that have been recognized in those places, happen to work in slave trade. So we have tried by a few actions, those signs are one of them, to recognize what happened. We also built a statue on the docks after a slave who was abducted in Africa and sold by Bordeaux slave traders. She happened also to be the great-grandmother of the first president of Haiti. This plan started 2 years ago and was built both with academics and community leaders in trying to find peace and good relationship within the city.
And is that what the result has been? Because in some places they're renaming street names, taking down statues. You're adding more context rather than taking things away. And has that worked with the public?
Well, so far the general backdrop from the public has been pretty positive. Most inhabitants from Bordeaux believe that this is fair and it's quite normal to explain, to give context, not to erase history because that's not something that can be done, but to give a full context of what happened. The idea is to recognize that this happened and it may happen again. So we all have to be vigilant about that. And generally, the public has been really comprehensive about it.
Right, that was it. I don't need my notes for this because, yeah, that one really worked me up. I did check with my girlfriends last night to see if what I saw had ground. I don't even know where to start with this one. I mean, really. I would like to highlight the detachment that I see. So basically, this city hall, city council group of people decide to put up these signs in Bordeaux to commemorate some slaves who did well at the time. I don't know, something off like that. So at a time where everyone, as the reporter mentions, everyone is taking down statues, taking down signs everywhere around the world, we have this group of people thinking that it's a good idea to put it up. Here's my question to you. If your daughter was raped, and your daughter survived that rape, and you're very proud of the fact that she survived it, do you think it's a good idea to then put it up somewhere in your wall in the house to commemorate the fact that your daughter survived rape? I mean, how detached can you be from a bad situation for you to think that that's a good idea? Do you see statues of Hitler around? Like, why would you think that this is a good idea? She also comprehensively says that everyone thought is good. Who are those people? Who are those comprehensive people? Was this checked by the Black community? Again, detachment, lack of care, or just not being bothered enough, or just being too bookish enough, just following what you logically think makes sense. When are people going to care enough to really think about their actions? This is my question. This is what Black Lives Matter is asking of the people who are on the sidelines, who are not really thinking or engaging or don't know what to do. Or here's what you should do or you can do. Think before you act. Think with your heart. Think with your mind and feel with your heart and think again. Have empathy. Be a bit more humane. This is what I'm asking. This is what the BLM movement's all about. Apart from the bureaucratic changes that's needed and the police brutality that needs to go away. This is a call for everyone to take action. A very small one. An example. If you're in the office and you hear some person making a racist joke, what do? Will you just ignore it? Or just say it and keep it in your mind or head that this person is awful and walk away? Or will you call it out? We all have a part to play when it comes to Black Lives Matter. If you can't go on the streets, if you can't write a blog or make a comment, take action by holding people accountable for the things that they do and say. All of us can make a change. So try to do yours in a small way. And I really hope they take that shit down in Bordeaux. I'm out.